video is part 2 of our Monday, February 27th class. And what I'm going to do right now is just read you a short sample essay. I'm sorry I don't have a copy of this that you can look at, so I'm just putting a little picture of a cafeteria on your screen because that is the subject of this observation. This is not the cafeteria, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot of differing details, but still you have something to listen or look at while you listen. As I'm reading, please be listening for and jotting down some of the really nice sensory images that you hear. Listen for sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Also listen for how this essay is organized. You're going to read about some different methods of organization. A lot of you will probably choose to organize your paper chronologically and just tell us in order of time how the different observations came to you. So in other words, you might tell us the story of your hour observing from the moment it started to the moment it ended. Some of you will probably choose to organize your paper spatially. So you'll describe to us from left to right or from top to bottom or near to far. Be listening as I read for how this essay is organized, what kind of transitions it has. And then also listen for some things that you thought weren't so great, because this isn't the perfect paper. This is a 3-page essay, so it falls a little bit shy of the requirements, but it has some really strong things and some places that could be improved upon. So I'm going to read you now the essay entitled 3-Ring Breakfast. Also, before I begin, listen for the dominant impression, for the overall mood or image that's trying to be created here. At a table at the back of the cafeteria, I reluctantly face my rations. Today's special doesn't look very special to me. Instant scrambled eggs. I also have a few reddish ribbons of bacon and a stringy heap of hash browns on my plate. My only companions this morning are an unemployed napkin holder and a recently retired salt shaker. Spilled milk lies camouflaged on the off-white tablecloth just long enough to dampen my shirt sleeve, but I'm too groggy to cry over it right now. One of my unsuspecting feet just discovered something squishy under the table. To avoid the sight of what I'm consuming, I survey my surroundings. Over my left shoulder, I can see out a bank of windows. The gray, foreboding sky lurks behind the dark outline of desperately stretching tree limbs. My attention is cut off by the dripping drops of a cappuccino machine. Arrogantly, it sits on a dark green countertop. Nearby, the coffee and milk dispensers witness a dwarfish boy juggling 2 black plastic glasses. He drops one of them on the red and white tiled floor. The bouncing glass sounds like popcorn popping. It comes to rest after a few seconds, but dwarf boy leaves it lying there. He's distracted by a noisy pack of drama queens meandering out of the cafeteria. Straight ahead of me, several people are seated in puke-pink chairs. It sounds like more of them are whining than dining. I can't say I blame them, but I was taught to be quiet during mealtime. A troop of clowns is gathered around a table laughing like hyenas. If I couldn't hear their chuckles, they would appear to be sobbing uncontrollably. Besides the chattering voices and chaotic laughter, I can hear the clanking of plates and the clinking of silverware. It sounds like 1,000 miniature sword fights happening simultaneously. Over the din, a small cloud of steam loiters above the thin wooden partition. It hides the dishwashers, both human and mechanical, from my view, but I can hear them rattling and hissing like snakes back there. As I behold my circus-like environment, breakfast continues. The crunchy bacon has a salty flavor. I'm willing to bet the leather of my shoes are more nutritious. These counterfeit eggs taste bland and watery. Too bad they aren't odorless. Their sulphurous vapors flare my nostrils. The mushy hash browns are edible, but not delicious by any means. On the contrary, I do enjoy the coffee. But then again, 3 packets of sugar would probably make anything enjoyable. To my right, the buzzing of the crowd is more muffled. Over a sea of heads, I spot the servers wearing their trademark hairnets and green aprons. A long, blurry line of sleepwalkers rambles forward at an elephant's pace. On the other side of them are light blue walls and framed pictures with slogans like Boulevard of Broken Dreams. In the middle of the room there are about 40 tables, and each one seats 4 people. The faces change as people come and go, but most tables are rarely vacant. This reminds me of watching musical chairs, but without the music. On that side of the cafeteria, the chairs are yellowish-brown, like old bananas, and the tablecloths are of the same off-white color as mine. Suddenly, an outburst of maniacal laughter surfaces above the usual frenzy. I can't identify where it came from, so I resume scanning the scenery. An empty fruit and salad bar serves no purpose. Like an old comic book collection, it takes up so much space that it just gets in everyone's way. And in the corner, hanging planters hold colorful plastic flowers. A brick column obscures my view of the clock, which stands high over a water fountain. From behind me, I hear the tired creaking of the entrance door. It does so almost constantly, but it doesn't bother me. It's just one voice among a chorus of many. I hear the anonymous words of someone arriving as they rise in my left ear and fade to the right. Having finished my feast, I tilt my head back to gulp the remainder of my coffee. I'm blinded by the fluorescent lights. There are several rows of these hospital-style lights running the length of the cafeteria. I realize that I've never really inspected them before. Similar to the sunlight, I just assume they'll be there. I notice water stains on some of the white panels of the ceiling before closing my stinging eyes. A blazing orange dot burns a hole through the blackness behind each of my eyelids. I open them again and blink away the dizzy afterglow. Setting my cup down, I stand up to return my tray and re-enter the real world. Hopefully you picked up on the fact that the dominant impression of this essay was that this breakfast is like a circus. And so a lot of the descriptions were analogies related to a circus atmosphere. And that's not at all what you have to do. You just need to create an overall mood. And I'll read you an essay next time that's just an observation of nature, and you'll see the kind of excitement of the essay. And that's all it creates. No special analogy, no comparison. It just shows excitement throughout the whole essay. But some of the things that did fit the dominant impression in this essay, some personification of the items in the essay, such as recently retired salt shaker, unemployed napkin holder. We've got the dwarfish boy juggling. We've got the glasses falling on the ground that sound like popcorn popping. A troop of clowns laughing like hyenas. Miniature sword fights of the clinking silverware. Hissing snakes of the dishwashers. And several other things that you may have noticed, but those are just some quick examples. I'm sure you heard some good, strong descriptions, and I'm going to ask you about some of the things you jotted down when you take the online quiz. But one of the things I will say is that the description in this essay kind of dwindled near the end. The author had good ambition and ideas at the beginning, but then got kind of lazy, and some of the later paragraphs suffer a little bit. So when you write your own observation, make sure that you really work to keep that high level of description up throughout the entire essay. In terms of organization, the overall organization of this is chronological. He tells us the story of his observation from the time he sits down until the time he leaves. But internally, you see a lot of spatial transitions. For example, he begins by describing the food in front of him, and then he gives us kind of an overview with this transition. To avoid the sight of what I'm consuming, I survey my surroundings. Over my left shoulder, blah, blah, blah. So he starts on his left. The next paragraph begins straight ahead of me. The next paragraph says, as I behold my circus-like environment, breakfast continues. So after he looks straight ahead of him, then he looks down again at his food, gives us some different sensory impressions other than just sight. The next paragraph goes on with to my right, and then from behind me is the next paragraph, and then finally at the very end of the paper he looks up above him. So he kind of makes a full circle, and then he gets up and leaves. So those are some things that you might think about it when you organize your own paper. He has good transitions at the beginning of paragraphs. Sometimes within the paragraphs it sounds a little bit choppy. The observation paper is particularly difficult to make smooth So we will be talking about some different ways to keep it flowing and interesting so that it doesn't end up sounding just like a list of observations. Okay, as I said, we'll read some other sample essays together in class, but hopefully that gives you just a quick idea of what is possible with the observation essay.